Right. So you are going to see a bit more of me today. Uh,
That's okay.
Good morning. No, what time is it? Good afternoon. I've already lost all track of time right now. So, Jimmy, can you give us a little introduction about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me. My name's Jimmy Kostro. I live in Chiang Mai. I moved here 2 years and 9 months ago, and I started a nonprofit foundation up in Chiang Mai where we support disadvantaged communities, specifically orphanages and hill tribes, with providing English teachers. That was how we got started. I have a business in America, in Miami and New York, that supports the foundation. And I moved here just about 2.5 years ago. Yeah.
Right. So I think we first met in Chiang Mai last year, or was it the beginning of this year? Earlier this year. Yeah. And well, I saw you were doing some projects up in the mountains, right? You were going around installing solar panels for disadvantaged kids and mining, Bitcoin mining equipments. How did that came about?
So that's a great question. Well, we first started having the English teachers locally close to the city, and the one community we wanted to help happened to be far away in the Omgoi Mountains, like an hour and a half further up in Nakian. And when we got up there, we're like, wow, there's almost 100 children up here. This is a very special place. But they were pretty much off-grid. There's a school about 1 kilometer away. So we recognized the need for them to have some type of nutrition. And we decided that, hey, maybe if we could build like an off-grid solar system, something small, we could get refrigeration and a freezer so we can help them store proteins and vegetables to have nutrition, because they're really just eating rice and they're really far off of the grid. So we ended up doing that, and we recognized that they were only really using maybe 20% of the solar system that we had installed. And that's when I went and spoke to our friends at Bob Space here in Bangkok, and was like, hey, is it possible to run some miners off of this extra energy? And they're like, yeah, let's go up there and check it out. So with Bob Space having residence program where they have developers come each quarter and work at Bob Space, a few of them came up to do a site assessment to check out the site. And we went with one gentleman from Korea and a gentleman from Italy, a few of the guys from Bob Space, Canadian Dan, Piccolo went up there the first time, and we checked out the site, and they said, well, yeah, we could definitely hook up 2 miners. We said, this is great. Let's go back up there and do it. Well, this was rainy season, and it was very difficult to get up there. It's about a 60-kilometer hike up on a 4-wheel drive vehicle, but the roads are really, really difficult. A lot of these children don't come down for years. So we had tried to go back up there. The road collapsed, so we had to wait 3 months. And finally, we got back up there. We went up. Captain Sid had come up. Jan from Bob Space came up, and a few others. And that was when we said, okay, we're going to try to install this. And at the time, I didn't know much about Bitcoin mining. I mean, I'm very familiar with it, but I didn't think anything of it. And we got in this little kind of a hut, a cement kind of hut right outside of the church area of the compound. And Captain Sid was putting together the router to try to connect to this little line of internet that we had up there. And Jan was trying to hook things up, and all of a sudden, Captain Sid was like, he got us online, and we were like mining, and he's telling us, like, he's showing how it's all working, and he's talking to Piccolo back at base, and like they're figuring this out, and the weather's all crazy, and it's dusty, and it's crazy, and we're like, what are we doing? So, but what happened, what was fascinating was when he connected, he's like, we're mining right now. These 2 miners are mining 40,000 sats per month if the system stays fully going. Like, let's just say that it's on full battery. So it wouldn't do that if it goes off at night. And at that moment, it was...
So that's about 1,000 baht. Yeah. At the current exchange rate.
At that, this is pre-halving, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit lower. But it wasn't the modest amount of sats that we were really generating. It was like, all of a sudden I recognized, whoa, we've got a children's home 5 hours away from Chiang Mai in the middle of the jungle on the top of this really far away mountain. And now these children are connected to the Bitcoin network. Like, that was super cool. And I was like, so we should like tell somebody on Twitter this. And so we mentioned on X, Twitter, what we had just done, like literally from up there. And that same day, we got the donations that were sent directly to the address of the miner that was equivalent to 1 full year of mining those sats at that orphanage. So it was like, this is super cool. So it was more of a signal, like I would say, like I explain it to people, like a digital signal, you know, like a kind of like a bat signal, like digital signal or a digital mailbox that people were able to contribute directly to a children's home directly. No Visa, American Express, MasterCard, no middleman. And that was very empowering. So it's not like a mining operation, it's just that we had connected the miners on the mountain.
And how is it still running?
So as you know, it's still rainy season.
Uh-huh.
So what we did was we had taken the miners down to Omgoi City, and the tribe we support is the Karen Hill tribe, and there's this specific Karen for Christ Hill tribe supports 40 villages. So we went down to their headquarters that's on grid, and we're like, hey, let's put these miners in here. So because it's raining out. And we put them in and we hooked them up on grid. Now we know that it's not cost effective to really mine on grid, especially if there's no negotiation with the energy producer. But we also knew that generous people wanted to donate to this project. So it just made sense. After the first 5 days of running for 24 hours a day, one of the board members at the Karen for Christ Hill tribe thought that this was like too good to be true. Like, how did we just get 5,000 baht? Like, and again, it goes back to education and like, so we didn't want to cause friction within the community. We ended up pulling down the miner and going back to education. So it was kind of like everybody was on board, but somebody said something has to be fishy here because why are people sending us money?
They're not used to it.
No, they're definitely.
This is like the thing you see in Bitcoin community, right? I remember Tucker giving his presentation just earlier, and he said that harder money makes people more generous, and we see that all over. We see projects around here. We have a Geyser fund going on, a Geyser grant going on today, and people donating money to the projects they like just because they like it, and people are voting with their money, and that really counts. But yeah, as you say, sometimes people are just not used to this kind of model, right? So I take it right now you're like reconsidering your plans for that. Is it going to continue? Are you going to like expand on it?
Sure. So great question. Underneath this hill tribe, there's a displaced community in a village called Doi Tao, and in Doi Tao, the government had built a dam. And the dam displaced all of their cattle and all of their land. So they decided they're going to give them a fully off-grid, I think it's like 50 or 75 kilowatt off-grid solar system. And it's under the umbrella of who we support. We visited the site before. So this time we're going to go up there and really mine sats. Like, we're going to introduce it. Again, everything's like very... Up there, everything's a challenge when you go to these places. So we're going to try to implement what we're doing on a larger scale, because the first time we had donated 5 kilowatts of energy, but this place has like 10 or 20 times the amount. So we're really excited to go up there. Again, I want to do like a site visit with, I'll team up with Bob Space. They have a cohort coming on that's Bitcoin mining. I'm going to time that perfectly however Piccolo thinks is appropriate, because I think that would be a really exciting experience for them as well. Plus, they're very much more technical than I am. So that's one of the things that we're going to continue on that mission. A second thing, which is really cool, if you don't mind, is so how else could we implement the Bitcoin into these hill tribes and these orphanages, or better said, children's homes. So as Tip was just mentioning a few minutes ago, Nostr is the way. Like, these kids have phones, like whether they have a living uncle or a living aunt, like I would say 70% of the kids have phones. And these villages are on the fringe of society. So like inflation affects them the most, because what happens is they can't get a second job. They have to use what they have. And this is an opportunity for them as they create content, like they do on TikTok. Like, you could follow some of their accounts and they just do kid stuff. But now, if we could introduce Nostr to them, this might be a really cool opportunity to take the most disadvantaged communities and connect them directly to the Bitcoin network.
And they can get like monetization. They can get money without having 40% cut off by the platform, like we did on YouTube or on Facebook and stuff like that. We're streaming live on YouTube right now, so don't cut our streams, right? Right, so that's really cool. And in like a bigger picture, Thailand as a whole, we are overproducing quite a lot of energy. So, this, if we can make it as like an example, I think that would go a long way to help stabilize the grid, stabilize the energy production in Thailand. Because after all, when we think of energy production, I think that is something to do with the stability, the sovereignty of a country. We need energy sovereignty. We'll be having a panel on mining after this, right? So I think we should move on to the next topic, right? So apart from going up the hills, mining for children's home, you also do a Bitcoin learning center. You have a booth outside, so if anyone is interested, you're recruiting, right? So if anyone wants to come work at a Bitcoin learning center in Chiang Mai, you can contact you.
Okay, it's a little different than the recruiting part. I'll explain it if there are more details.
Yeah, just tell us about how this project came about and why do you do it?
Cool. So the Bitcoin Learning Center came about as I mentioned when I first moved here 2 years and 9 months ago. On the pros and cons list of moving to Chiang Mai, there was a lot of pros, and one of them was that it has a Bitcoin meetup. But as I attended and it's held since 2016, which is a very long-running Bitcoin meetup in Chiang Mai, held by a friend of mine named Stefan, who does a great job, and he's super patient, and he listens to new people, and he's been around a while, and it's wonderful. But for me specifically, I needed something more Bitcoin focused. And since it's a very social event, it does bring in a lot other than Bitcoin. I would say maybe like 25% Bitcoin only is quite generous. So I was like, well, what am I want to spend time being around Bitcoin. I had just came from adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador. I spent a month down there. I recognize how important community in person is versus online. So I would fly down to Bob Space to go to these Bitcoin meetups. And maybe I would spend 3,000 baht or $90 each way and accommodation. I'm like, this probably isn't sustainable to keep flying down each week. What we really need, Thailand's second largest city really needed a Bitcoin-focused hub. This just made perfect sense. So about 2 years ago, we started, my partner Phi and I at her building. We began to deconstruct the building. It's a 40-year-old building. 3 stories, which we're kind of making into 4, or 3.5. We began the demolition process right around the time FTX happened. So we'd kind of put the brakes on, spending too much money, because this was a golden stacking sats opportunity. And so then in about a year ago, we really pushed a lot faster, actually a little shorter than a year ago, built the first phase, the second phase, and just recently had our grand opening party last week, and which was really inspiring because I didn't know how many Bitcoiners really lived in Chiang Mai. I just didn't really know. So we put, some on X, on Telegram, and the Facebook groups, just some notice about, hey, come to our, come RSVP, come to our event. And we had almost 100 people come. Maybe
That's really cool.
Maybe 15 family.
Do you have anyone here from Chiang Mai? Yeah, there's a few. Have you been to this place? You should.
So yeah, it was awesome. And a few people here said they didn't get a chance or they didn't get an invite. And so to elaborate more on the Bitcoin Learning Center itself, what its purpose is one thing we really recognize is like the international community here in Thailand is helpful, but really we want the Thai people to embrace teaching Thai. And so if that means like getting out of the way, like I know like some people don't want to speak English. They're comfortable in just a very formal setting, in a classroom setting. We get it. We're really only hire Thai at our learning center for the nonprofit, and they could help on that process, those projects. So we're starting in October, native Thai classes, 101, Introductory to Bitcoin, what is money, what is Bitcoin, and we'll see how that materializes. In addition to that, we had a huge feedback that Chiang Mai really needs a Bitcoin, a monthly meetup, because quarterly, if you miss one quarter of Bob Space collaboration, then it's 6 months before there's any active thing before like a block mountain or something. So we're going to begin having a monthly meetup at the new Bitcoin building. And on the second floor, to elaborate on the recruiting, we created a program called Thai Bitcoiners inside of our nonprofit. And what in the West, I have my organization over the last 11 years has hired over 4,000 contractors. So we've gotten very good at staffing and recruiting. So we're like, okay, we should probably implement this. Being a nonprofit in America, an American company could work directly with my American company, and we could use Go Abroad by Phi and Phi's business. She's a professor at the major universities in Chiang Mai to help recruit. And we could actually help the Western companies reduce employment costs by 25, 30%, and increase the Thai worker salary by 25%. So just to give an example, if an American company is looking for a remote worker that speaks fluent English, and they're paying in dollars to make it easy, $100,000, there's someone in Thailand that speaks fluent English that has that exact skill that's earning $50,000. We could then save that company 25% down to $75,000. We could increase his or her wages from $50,000 up to $62,500. And then there's the arbitrage in the middle that could help us continue to fund the programs and the villages and the things we work on. We also didn't want to make that like a permanent thing. If that gets a lot of traction, we're here to help. And we think that would be wonderful for even countries like Singapore. We spoke to someone today, and not just America, but America gets the nonprofit tax advantage. In addition, the worker gets to work in the Bitcoin building. So there's a synergy there saying, okay, they feel more comfortable than say outsourcing to India or Philippines, nothing against Philippines, just saying that they're more comfortable knowing that we have the same incentives and the same alignment. So that's one program that we're working on there as well.
So if there's a Bitcoin Learning Center in Philippines, that would also be okay too.
That would be very great. That would be very great. We're really encouraging. We want to see your guys' projects come flourish there. We want the Thai Bitcoin community to feel like that's your second home. We see the board game out here, which is super cool. Like this is a great place to showcase it. And how Bob Space has the BitDev guys come each quarter. And I'll say, Jan puts a lot of effort into communicating with the international community, does an outstanding job. This is a good place and a good platform for people to come Bitcoin focused, talk about your project, share what you're working on, if you want to, like Captain Sid has these retreats which are happening soon. He'll talk about tomorrow. So we really just encourage anyone in Thailand to come spend time at the Bitcoin Learning Center and talk about what you want or let us know what you'd like to see. And it doesn't have to involve the international community. It could be just Thai only as well.
So is there anything like anything that, well, you've spoken about this at length already, but like anything new that you learned that you didn't think that you would learn by doing this project?
Yeah, I didn't think there was as many Bitcoiners in Chiang Mai as there are. A lot of them had expressed that they just don't do, they don't drink, or they've already gone through the shitcoining many years ago, and they're not wanting to spend time educating, and it's just not their place. So that was one thing I think that I've learned, like that there's definitely less, more people, and also like.
And it's growing, right?
It's definitely growing, and it's really infectious to see how much it's growing here in Thailand.
What I notice about doing anything in Bitcoin, you start to build something, you start out small, but it just keeps growing. It doesn't, burst. You see things in the crypto space, they start out big, right? You have VC funding, you get all this like large sum of money, and you start building this large building for crypto business and stuff like that. And in a year, everything goes bankrupt, and then you have to start again. But in the Bitcoin space, what you're seeing there is also what I'm seeing here, like the community here in this room. It just keeps growing and growing because, I don't know, maybe once people got out of their shitcoinery phase, they really can't go back. Do you think?
I agree. It's a journey for all of us. I mean, it depends on how you came into it. And I think a lot of it, like, what you and the Right Shift team do is so important. And it's consistent what you do, and it's effective. And I, on behalf of everyone in here, commend you on your tireless efforts every week. And it's your team that makes it all possible for you to educate and inspire. I hear sometimes, when I'm walking through the house, I'll hear your voice, and I'm like, what's going on? So it's really, really, I really just encourage you to continue to please educate the way you're doing it, and however much help, if you need any help in Chiang Mai, we like want to help. If if we have a station, it could be like a Right Shift station, so you could send somebody up there and they could work from the mountains, get a break from maybe Bangkok or something. We really encourage, and we want to support you however we can.
Our team are actually spread all over the country. We work in Discord. We don't have a physical office,
okay.
Right? So maybe that's a possibility too.
Okay.
Yeah. I really like what you do up there. We were trying to do the same thing here in Bangkok. We're growing. Bob's space is growing also. So I think, in general for Thai people, for Thailand, this is a good time. We are hopefully looking at another bull cycle, so that's going to bring in a lot of new people. And for that, we're going to need all the help we can get to educate. And maybe try to, get the new people to not throw their money away into all the scams and all the shitcoins. So if people in this room and people watching from home wants to get more info or wants to get involved with your project, how can they do that?
Well, we have ThaiBitcoiners.com for Western companies to see, and ThaiBitcoiners.org, which is right now the same as ThaiBitcoiners.com, separate for employers and for visitors. And then I'm on Nostr. We're on Nostr under Chiang Mai. You can just at Chiang Mai. And Twitter, we spend a lot on Twitter and Facebook, and we're in the Telegram groups. So wherever is most convenient for you, Line, you could reach out. You could reach Phi or our staff, even Neo. They're very helpful. We actually just had them go through 250 hours, our staff, of Bitcoin learning. So we had them do the Sailor Academy. We had them do all the free courses at Plan B Network. We had them do my first Bitcoin diploma. We had them read all of the books. This is like paid orange. We couldn't have people work here that didn't have that step. So luckily, Jean Fai works part-time. She's our director at the foundation. She's like helps make every single thing happen from Go Abroad by Phi. She actually took the two interns that had graduated with the two students that had graduated with honors. So we had to you can't just get Bitcoiners. You need to like almost make them. So that was one of our ways of trying to have the staff here at our office.
Okay, cool. So we have about 4 minutes left. Do we have any questions from the floor? I mean, I really want to try to get questions, but we always overshoot the time. So this is the first time we have some time left. No, right? Anything? Anything from home? No?
It's okay.
Right. So, yeah, just a closing thought. You mentioned Kun Fai, right?
Yeah.
Yep. This is just one thing I want to touch on. You're not just a Bitcoiner. You're a Bitcoin family. Your wife is actually doing a PhD in Bitcoin, right? So does that have anything to do with the project, and how do you find that?
Yeah, it's funny. About 2 years ago, I started like dragging her around. She knew I was a Bitcoiner. Like it's very hard to escape, So if I had gone to Bitcoin Prague with me, she was already begun doing her, studies on Bitcoin before that, going through the whole fiat standard, Bitcoin standard, and just being around and seeing how, we talk of like how this is like, we feel like it's like the internet of like 2000 or 2001. And she recognized it as an opportunity, and she loves academia, and she likes to study and learn, and so she's now been to 4, or actually this is I think the 5th Bitcoin conference, and like you said, it's like a family. Like we try to do things together with the staff, take them around, show them how to use Lightning. We just got on Albi Hub as a family. So that's pretty much how we got Phi in, and now couldn't do it without her.
Credit to you, because even this whole thing is not. This can't happen without my wife. So family is a very important thing, right? So, yeah, that's really cool. You gave us a lot of hope, I think, for the future of Bitcoin and where people can go from here. Where I think Thai people are in good hands. Even up in Chiang Mai, in Bangkok, I'm taking care of that. We even have Bitcoiners in Phuket, in Phang Nga. We'll do this. We'll make this happen, I think. It doesn't matter if the government allows it or not. It's a grassroots movement. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we could help them. Hopefully we could help educate them on. We in just the last minute that we have, I think it's important that in Southeast Asia, Thailand's like the big brother, and we have to lead by example, and we have to educate and educate and educate until that light bulb moment goes off. And they're like, wait a minute, this could stabilize the grid. This could help us. We could get ahead. We could leapfrog. We could go. If we could get the Thai government to listen, or just we're always 6 degrees separation from each other. Just if we just continue what we're doing, or if you've got an interest or you're a project or something you want, talk about it online. We give you a physical place up in Chiang Mai, or together we're building this all together, and we can't do it without you. And we really need to. We know that every business is going to be part of a Bitcoin business, whether that's through accounting, whether that's through your banking, whether it's through management, whatever it may be. So we know it's coming. So it's important that we build the pipes, that we build the crossroads, and we build the underground highway and the above ground highway and the satellites and everything, and be ready for when the government needs us, because they are going to need us, because we don't go away. We just keep getting stronger and stronger. So I encourage you, whatever it is that you do, whatever job you do, it can be Bitcoin related. Whether it's a haircut, whether you have a small little shop, let us know. Accept Lightning. Talk to Piriya, his team. We could get you accepting Bitcoin. And even if it's a little bit, maybe 100 baht once a month, that's inspiring. And look, that's what happened to us, and now here we are. So please, I encourage you all to just add a little Bitcoin into your life.
Right. I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.